Are there any questions from the guests in the room? Whilst I give you opportunity to think on them, I do have a few questions, so I'll just ask three for each of the presenters, and then I'll open the floor for each of you to answer them. That way we save up on time, and also we'll be able to read up any comments or questions that will be shared. Fizza, it was very interesting to hear your, thank you for sharing your email address, Ngosa, so please be able to answer it on there. Fizza, very interesting to hear your journey where it was reconstruction, self-esteem restoration, especially in a different culture, one that are quite far off, Pakistan and Australia, and so being able to immerse yourself within that culture. I wanted to know, you stated that you reached a point whereby you realized that you needed to do something for yourself or you were going to go down a very negative path. What motivations lay in that for you to be able to reach that point where you were like, you're going to make a change in order to be able to make a better life for yourself in this new world or this new country that you had found yourself in? And as you think on that question, for Clara, very interesting story and interesting journey. Palliative care is something that a lot of people don't engage in talking about, and especially care in itself as well, because recently I did see some statistics from Teva, the pharmaceutical company, saying that nearly 50% of the world's population are in care. It's just something that's not talked about. So palliative care in itself is also very specific and something that an area where we really don't discuss much about the challenges that people go through. But from your own experience, your journey in your research right now, what challenges specifically in doing this, because this is a career path that you're engaged in, what challenges arose as you're doing your research? How have you overcome them? Are there some that you're still currently facing that you're trying to overcome? And then lastly, for Ngosa, Clara, as you think about that question, your research, quite interesting. I think it's something that is quite honestly shunned in most cultures. People don't talk about it. So men often retreat and never speak about experiences. Firstly, I wanted to know the statistics, like the number of perpetrators, women versus men, when it comes to male rape as well, just out of interest, not to create any bias, but also, and as well as to know what your experience has been as well as a female undertaking this research. Because of course, as you said, it was a challenge initially to try and get participants or survivors to actually talk to you. So what has that looked like, and how have you been able to open the doors of trust? Because it's part of it, the social capital aspect of getting these survivors to trust you. What has that looked like? Fizza, please feel free to start off, and then we'll go on to the rest of the participants.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy, that you have asked me a lovely question. So basically, I don't have any financial pressure and financial constraint on me. But the thing is that my inner strength motivates me a lot, because throughout my life, I really struggled from one path to another path to establish my career before moving to Australia. But when I came here, those challenges are different. So for even in Pakistan, I face challenges, but their challenges are different. So over there, I always utilize my inner strength, and the same thing, I utilize my inner strength here again. When I go down, then I sit and then I realize myself, like, I'm not that type of person. I'm not a loser. I have to face these challenges. I have to strengthen myself, and I have to start it again. So that is it.
No, brilliant. Thank you so much. Very honest answer. I think it's that's a lot of what goes on. I think Clara also alluded to that, where she stated she had her goals and she wanted to go for that. So it's good to hear that it's something that transcends and exists within us women in general. Clara, please go ahead.
So once more, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it so far. Like I said, there's nothing in life without challenges. I faced my challenge and I'm still facing it anyway, because the first challenge I faced was getting financial support. which I was not able to get up till now. So I had to work. I'm working. I do a full-time job. I'm a mother, and then with the private challenges I have at home. So the only good news I have is that my family are behind me. So I had to finance my everything about my research. I had to do the finance myself, because everywhere I go, they will ask me to either resign from a job, and I didn't want, because that's the area I'm working at, the area where I'm doing my research, and I don't know how much money they want to give me that will get me that experience I need. So that's one of it. And another challenge I've been facing is the language. Because you find out that I'm dealing with Germans, and there are not many of them who are ready to give me an interview in English. So all I do is I get my interview in German, and I will need to translate it, and it costs me a lot of time to do that in the process, but I'm still facing the challenge anyway. So the biggest challenge I could say I have within this period is COVID. At some stage, I felt like giving up, but it was this in me that said, you don't have to give up. Because the line of the topic I chose and the setting, I had to change it. Because in the hospital was a no-go. They couldn't even let me come in there. So I had to change my setting. I had to change to a nursing care home. I had to discuss with my professor. He said it's okay if you have the time and the interest to start all over again, which means I have to go through digging the literatures, because they are different settings altogether. So it was at that point I asked myself, why are you doing this to yourself? Must you do it? Because I have my nursing, I have my all the things I needed, but I tell you, it's still this thing in me that is pushing me forward, that's telling me you have something to do. So, and then I have getting people to talk to. That's another challenge I have, because people are not properly educated about palliative. They don't even know what is expected of them. And some of them are not even willing to talk about this topic, or even talk about their dying person, because some of them are people that have lost their relatives, or that have made a nasty experience in the process, and they don't want to talk about it. So you can imagine, it's the few people that agreed. I really have to know them. I planned for 12, and ending up with 6 people. I'm still facing the challenges. So I am now going to resolve to settle with 6, because the more I want to increase them, because every day the COVID law is increasing, and I don't want anything that will bring me a mixed feeling in the process. But like I said, the challenges are still there, because I'm still in the process. The journey is still there. I'm not still there where I'm supposed to be, but I believe the process.
Getting there.
Since I'm giving myself off, I will get there.
Most. Thank you. A common theme here for self-determination. Also the motivation that comes within, and also being able to become adaptable. I think that's one of the other key things that sticks out from the discussions we're having. Ngosa, 2 minutes, please, if you could wrap it up, and then we can close off the room in order to rejoin in the other main room, because we do have an interesting talk coming up. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try and make it quick, just because I got 2 minutes. So in terms of perpetrator breakdown by sex, unfortunately, the police statistics do not do that. So I can't give you an answer on that. It'll be great if we could, because then that would help with the campaigning about making the law less gendered. The other thing about gaining trust is really just being open with exactly what the research is gonna be involved. There's trigger warnings in the information sheet. There is on the consent form, but also they have the option to actually see the interview schedule beforehand. So there's no surprises for them when they come to the interview. And I think that's really what just helps, is just being open. Being open, I found like also initially having the credibility going through charities. I found that helped. asking charities as well if they were happy to be hashtagged or added on social media when making the recruitment as well. I think having that kind of backing, people seeing that you're connected to something, also helps with the trust. But I also think that the anonymity of the qualitative questionnaire also helped as well, because they didn't have to speak to me. They could type it out, and I can see the completion time. Some people took 2 hours to fill it out. And they did get reimbursed for that as well. That's another thing. So yeah, that's
was that not a challenge or an ethical issue, the reimbursement?
It wasn't an ethical issue as such, is because for their time, and it's a small token for their time. So what I did is to keep in line with the BPS ethical standards, I kept it to the living wage. So for the hour that they did, they got vouchers for that. So that's how it was keeping it ethical. I wasn't giving them £50 and cash. That would be unethical. And I certainly wasn't saying the amount right at the start, because you want people to do it because they want to do it, not because they're going to get a voucher at the end of it. So yeah, that's it.
No, exactly. No, that makes sense. And it is one way to approach it as well, in order to get people to actually open up and share their stories. So it's brilliant that you've had participants partake in your study. I did ask a question in terms of you as a woman taking this on. What was it like? Were there any challenges currently, as well as similar to Clara, similar to Fizza as well? And I'm sure some people in the room, including myself, there's definitely been challenges in your research. What has that looked like?
So a key part of my research, because it's qualitative, situated in discourse, is the reflexivity. And what I found, not necessarily with the survivors, but with the professionals. So I spoke to 13 professionals. And what I found is they would say their thought, and then they'll be like, yeah, and women too, and look me in the eye. So it's kind of like they were like, yeah, they're saying all these things, but then kind of trying to relate it back to me as a woman who is interviewing them. And also I've worked in, before this, I worked in quite a long time in support work. So I'm very familiar with these topics. I also supported male survivors voluntarily as well. So I kind of had that experience to help me deal with this, and to help me deal with the challenges of having to speak about this topic with other professionals as a Black woman, especially when most of the people who disclose are white men. So it's completely like the opposite. And it's just coming into terms with that, to be like, look, it's not about what I look like, it's about bringing awareness to this issue.
Interesting take. I'll come back, ask a question on that. I do see assume that is not Shion's account. So yes.
Hi everyone, sorry.
Please go ahead
a bit different to
and
my...
ask a question.
Hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
A bit different to my profile picture and the account. It's just I'm logged in for the host account. I've been doing a few things behind the scenes with Tracy. And I just wanted, it's less of a question, more just kind of a congratulations to all of you. It sounds so inspirational. I've just been listening to all of you talk, and kind of the inner strength. I feel like that's something you all have in common. And it's literally through all of the challenges, like Fizza, you said that you had setbacks in doing your PhD, like they said they wanted you to do like a whole nother year. And just from my perspective, it is like, wow, that's a lot. And Clara with the COVID as well, and just still seeing how much kind of passion you have for your topic, even though I know how hard PhDs can be. I've spoken to a lot of my lecturers, and to still come out with that passion and wanting to drive to kind of improve everyone's lives. And of course, Ngosa creating this kind of open conversation about something that just is a very closed off topic. And I think kind of needs a lot more of awareness. And of course, if there was, then you'd have so many more participants. But yeah, so I think if I did have a question out of that Tracy hasn't already covered, it would be, if you had one thing or one piece of advice to kind of create and build that inner strength to get through all of the challenges you faced, what would it be? Yeah, I know it's quite a challenging one, very open, but yeah, I'm excited to see your answers.
Okay, if you don't mind, I don't mind going
Yeah.
first. So one of the things I think is having a good support network, because the topics that we're investigating are not easy topics. So having good supervisors, having a good network, having people you can actually talk to about these things, I think is very, very important. And also just having, speaking to other PhD colleagues and hearing their experiences, although you might not be doing the same topic, you might actually get some really, really good ideas, and you might get some input from a different perspective that you didn't even think about. So I just think that having that support, the right people around you, can really help with the process.
Perfect, thank you. I think we've got something in the chat as well from Fizza.
Yes, Fizza, most welcome. Clara, you can go ahead and answer the question.
The journey is, the PhD journey is very, very lonely. It could be very, very lonely, what I've experienced so far. Like she rightly said, I've forgotten her name. Once in a while, I need to talk to people who have already gone through this journey before. By the time I've spoken with them, I kind of get strength from somewhere. Amina has been very supportive. And then I have some other friends too who are beginning or who have already finished. So each time I face this challenge, I look for somebody to talk to. This, when we have this, they're very, very supportive, and it's very inspiring to hear somebody else's story, to know that you're not alone. You are not the first person that have gone through this, and you're not going to be the last person. And it's very, very motivating. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Clara. Fizza?
Yeah, I must say that I usually, I agree with Clara. Like I usually talk with the other friends who facing these challenges, who already face these type of challenges. So when I listen their stories and when I listen their challenges, they really help me a lot. So sharing definitely help you a lot. When you discuss your definitely problems with others and you listen, then you listen their stories, that will really helpful for you.
That's great, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, Will, for that was a really good question. And from the rest of the audience, any comments, any questions, please do feel free to either raise your hand and mute yourself, or even share the comments in the chat section where I can read it aloud and share it with the presenters today. I think on my end, most of the questions were very in relation to your research and like your experiences. I think I can go for one last round before we close off, or as we wait for more comments and questions to be put in. For Fizza, I just wanted to kind of know, in terms of the direction, the training and assessing that you provide right now, are there any differences? Is it directly specifically targeted for migrant women? And are there any different ways in which you're approaching it in comparison to your own personal journey? Because then, of course, you face certain challenges when you first came to Australia. And I would assume oftentimes you try and streamline it and make it easier for anyone who's coming behind us. So is that something that you've taken on?
Specifically for the people whom I am training?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a diverse group of learners, and definitely as I am training those educators for the early years of teaching. So the females who are migrant, they definitely have different problems. Like there are few females who had they have done their bachelor's, and now they have after such a long gap, they have started here again just to economically support their families. Then there are few females who have language barriers as well, like they don't have their English is not so much strong. So with those things, I always try to listen their problems. Then I try to help them to provide the different resources just to facilitate them further, so that they are able to complete their trainings. They don't get you can see they don't lose their hope. And then I try to include more related activities, so that in that scenario, in that case, that will definitely boost their self-esteem again, and they are able to you can say that they can say that once they are going to successfully fulfill that certification, complete the certification, definitely they gain confidence. If they are not going to able to complete that, then they are going to lose hope. So in this way, I try to establish a contact, and then I am open as well. Like I just ask them to share whatever you feel, however you feel, you just share. Sometimes they write their stories, they write their challenges, and then I listen them, and then I write answers for them. So in this way, these are the few things I am trying.
Yeah, brilliant. No, any sort of action or help that, of course, you provide to migrant women, knowing the challenges because you've been there, is always quite helpful. So I've done a little bit of research on that, and it's usually quite, it's needed. And sometimes people just assume that you don't necessarily need to have any input or put in any help or assistance, but any little does have a positive impact.
Yeah,
Clara, no, go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry. I just want to add a little bit. Sometimes you just, they just only need that you just listen to them. That's it.
Yeah,
just
a good listening ear is always.
Yeah, just to release their frustration. Like I always, when I, obviously my challenges are different, but when I come to all these challenges and all these problems, so I always sit with my friends, and when I discuss my problems and challenges, I really feel good. Sometimes they don't have answers. Sometimes I don't even get answer for my specific challenge or for my problem, but at least I got time to share my problem with them. So when I shared, I feel good. Okay.
That's yeah, a problem shared is a problem half solved.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I think a question for both Clara and Ngosa in terms of being Black, as a Black woman, especially in the fields that you're in. Are there any challenges, specific ones, that you think are affect you in regard to being a Black woman in the field, and especially in the countries that you're in? Ngosa, I take it you're British. Of course, there's always these challenges that have come up with Black British women. Clara, likewise, and you stated language to begin with is a barrier that you've encountered. So how does that even add in and factor to the idea that you have to learn this new language, Dutch, or German in this case, and then also approach people who are reluctant to engage with you? So yeah. Clara, I think you can go first.
Sorry, okay. Well, at the beginning, like when I came newly to Germany, I faced a lot of challenges. And coming here as a registered nurse from Africa, I was not recognized. My certificate was not accepted. So I had to work as an assistant nurse. And it was at that level I realized that, no, I don't belong here. I have to find my level. So I have to go through the process, and the process we have to go through, it comes with a lot of challenges. And I have to it's not being perfect in the language, but I have to be able to communicate with the patient because I'm going to work with the patients. So I have to go through the language school to really polish my language. And then I have to go through the Ministry of Health here because there are so many processes to get to be allowed to do your practical in a hospital, which I did. And eventually, they did not want to assist me financially, and I was not allowed to work. So that means I have to work for the 6 months without pay, no money from everywhere. So I decided, I started patching from one friend to another in order to be able to do my orientation program and work as a qualified nurse. So eventually I did that, and I was able to pass the exams. I was over the moon because that was just like a beginning of my journey. So by the time I worked in the hospital, when I was working as a nursing aide, the worst area where I received my shock was meeting some of these old women, because most of them, they don't have the history of Black. You know, you could see they didn't want me to touch them, and it was psychological terror for me. So I remember crying for a while because I felt rejected. I was not accepted. And then I went to report to the organization. They could not help it anyway. What will you do? It's not the fault of these women. So I had to battle with that, and I had to change places of work for quite some reasons, because of there are institutional racism, and these are things people don't talk about. They don't even mention it. And if you tell anybody, you can't prove it anyway. So I had to battle with this. I think these were some of the things that really spoiled me, that really made me to be who I am today. I did not want to go down with the negativity. What I did, I took the negativity to motivate me to be the person I want to be. And I'm grateful to them anyway. So.
Thank you so much. Brilliant answer. There's a few things you've touched on that I think is connecting all three presenters, as well as just the theme in general. And I'm sure it's helping the guests and the audience reflect on their experiences. Ngosa, please.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, well, I'm Zambian first and British second, even if I have a British passport. I don't think that should be dismissed at all. Some of the challenges I face as a Black woman, especially in academia, because not only am I, a PhD student, I've also been doing some teaching to third years and first years in discourse analysis, and also in research methods. And just one of the challenges that I face is always me being places being questioned. Like people just assume that, oh, are you the help? Are you is the person coming? Like, or people are always questioning, like, why am I there? And that's some of the challenges that I've faced also with my research, is always being questioned, like, surely, like, you can't know what you're talking about, you can't have all this experience, and it's just really just always having to remind people that I am qualified, I do have the experience, I do have the knowledge. And also another thing that I get a lot is people see my name and then they're very surprised that I don't have a stereotypical African accent. I mean, when we came here, we started off in London, lived in the South, and that's where my English comes from. So they get very surprised that I'm well-spoken, which is a microaggression in itself, because you can already tell they had preconceptions of how you should sound based on my name. It's very, very Black. And another thing is I always get questions like, where are you really from? And I just find that it's insulting, because you can't just accept that I'm here and I have a right to be here. They always want to know where you come from so that they can use that as a metric to judge your worth. So I think that's some of the challenges facing as a Black woman, particularly in academia, not just PhD, but even just with teaching.
Yeah, well, with existing, you'd want
Exactly.
to, so yes, and I'm sure in this case, Fizza, you probably have similar experiences where, of course, you walk into a room and somebody undermines your value or what it is you're bringing to the table, which I wish we had more time to kind of share and engage with, talking about being a woman of color and existing, especially in this Western space. And the effects that has, and like the constant fighting and the constant proving of yourself that you have to do over and over again, where it can't just be easy, where you walk into a room and you don't have to answer any questions such as why do you have an accent, or how do I pronounce your name, or all these questions that come about. And of course, I think key themes that have popped up, they're definitely telling is, especially if you've migrated from, let's say, whether it's Pakistan or from Nigeria and going into this other country, and having the qualifications that you possess from your home country and them being undermined. Whereas, ironically, if they were to give you the opportunity, you'd probably do you'd excel at the role or the job that you're well qualified for. So having to scale back and then prove yourself all over again is something I think, and this resilience that you possess that has led you to be on the path that you're currently on. So I want to thank the presenters for doing such a wonderful job in sharing their stories, sharing their journeys, sharing their research, sharing their direction, where you're also going, because you're not done